So we are gonna make a raw chocolate today, and it's super simple and super, super yummy, and usually things that people just have in their cupboards anyways. And so we're gonna start with almond butter. I usually do about like 2 big spoons of almond butter, depending on how much you wanna make. And then I will, you can spoon it in, or sometimes I just pour it in. Just kind of cover the almond butter with oil. Coconut oil is what we use. And then to sweeten, you can use honey, you can use raw sucanut. I love maple syrup because it adds a really nice flavor, and also somehow it allows it to become more creamy. And so depending on if you like super sweet chocolate or if you like it just like a little more bitter, you can just add it to taste, whatever your taste is. And I don't measure, so play around with measurements. And then, you got me a spoon. Thanks. This is 100% cacao powder, so it's a superfood. It's also a stimulator, so if you're going to be eating a lot of chocolate at night, you can use carob instead, or you can also make it without cacao, which it's still really delicious. And so I usually add about 1.5 spoons, 1.5 teaspoons. But then sea salt, because salt kind of just brings out the flavor of everything. And again, just to taste. Sometimes people like it really salty, sometimes just a little hint of salt. And then stir it up. So you want to stir it up really well so there's no lumps in it. And sometimes if I see that it's a little too thick, I'll go ahead and add a little more coconut oil. But this looks really good. And so at this point, you can add any flavors that you want. Sometimes I do a chai spice with cardamom and cinnamon. Sometimes I do a lavender sea salt, so just adding fresh lavender. Peppermint oil could be a good taste, so you can kind of play around with that. So that looks really good. And then you grab a container and you can line it with wax paper. And you can also just use really anything. Sometimes I use a plate if I don't have a container around, or even like a baking sheet, and just make sure you line it with wax paper so that it doesn't stick. And just go ahead and pour it in. Looks almost like a cake batter. Just spread it across. And sometimes I make a big chocolate bar like this, other times I'll make just small little dollops. So there's just a bunch of little round chocolates. And then depending on the flavor that you chose, sometimes I'll sprinkle fresh lavender on the top. Sometimes I'll garnish it with almond slivers. Today we have macadamia nuts that we cut up. You can just sprinkle it on the top. And that'll add a nice little crunch for when you serve it later on. And so after that's done, super simple, super fast, I stick it in the freezer for about 10 to 15 minutes. Of course, the longer that it stays in, the harder it becomes. And if you do take it out of the freezer for longer than 10 minutes, it will begin to melt. And so I always just keep it in the freezer and just break off a little piece whenever I'm craving a healthy and really yummy sweet treat.
Above my brother, insane spot. We smoked the screen to make you what it was to be.